The Solitaire Series, Episode 27, The 10 of Clubs, by Troy Lambert. Narrated by Troy Lambert. Copyright 2020, audio copyright 2025. 7 people, 6 men and a woman, entered a back room to play a game of Crazy Eights. 4 walked out. Bert was one of them. He left with one intent: get the hell out of Vegas. Whatever money he could make here, whatever the potential, it didn't matter. He'd taken it a step too far with those backroom games and hidden gambling halls, the ones where the stakes were large along with the thrills, the ones where he normally stood out and excelled in his career as a card counter. The casinos knew what he did and often let him win anyway. He offered what they offered: entertainment. Even when he won, his garish suit, gold jewelry, chocolate skin, and boisterous demeanor kept the other patrons gambling, hoping some of his luck would rub off on them. But he had been sucked in beyond the casino floor and bored dealers to the places for more serious gamblers. He had won more and lost more, been overcome by curiosity, and followed a man named Jack, trying to figure him out, maybe even partner with him. He had found himself first nearly run down, then kidnapped and put in a game where his card-counting skills did little for him, a game of Crazy Eights, and he had lost. As he approached the valet, he saw the man was already bringing his Mustang around, the advantage of being a good tipper and easily recognizable. Where to? L.A. was no good as a haven. Neither was pretty much anywhere in Nevada. The disadvantage of being a good tipper, a great gambler, and easily recognizable. He'd gotten someone's attention. Maybe he could change that. The first order of business would be to change his clothes and his appearance. To do that, he'd need to do some shopping. Bert had exactly 7 suits, all loud in their own way. He didn't own a single conservative polo and a pair of khakis. He almost didn't know if he could stomach wearing them. Where did they even sell clothes like that anyway? A mall? There had to be one around here somewhere. In fact, he thought he'd seen one not far away. He put the Mustang in gear and roared out of the parking lot. Behind him, a black sedan did the same, a newer Ford, something he saw in the rearview mirror. He turned right, and that car turned left. Good. He wasn't being followed. Troy and Tony followed the man they'd just left the game with, Red Hat they called him, out of the casino to find the sun shining. Time, some kind of time, had passed, and it was now the quiet early morning of Vegas. People around the world were eating breakfast, preparing to go to normal jobs at normal times. The twins, as they were known to most, were not. They were up past their bedtime, which usually came somewhere around 5 a.m. Their mother, God rest her soul, had little sense of humor. Tony and Troy were also known as TNT, or TNT, because as a pair, they were dynamite. They could clear a room, take out several assailants at one time, each. It came from fighting their way through elementary and high school. That's where the bullying stopped. They discovered Krav Maga, bullies discovering the taste of pavement and the pain of broken bones. If their mother had stuck with their original names, Troy and Tori, things probably would have been worse. It's amazing the difference one letter can make. Both had college degrees in criminal justice. They'd been headed for an FBI career before an unfortunate incident in a bar on a Friday night. A witness to that incident had recruited them for a new job that put their skills to use, just for the other side of the law. The brothers were fine with that. Their appearance let them switch places at times, trade jobs, freak out debtors who needed to be scared into paying. They provided each other with alibis from time to time. The accident of their birth worked well for them. As they approached the valet, their car was already being brought up for them behind some older Mustang. That must belong to Red Hat. The advantage of being recognizable and just a little bit threatening. They jumped in the car and headed for the exit. Where to? Troy asked his brother. The apartment. Let's get some sleep and we can chat with Ace later. Sounds right. As they pulled out of the parking area, they turned left and saw the Mustang turn right. Wonder where he's going. Who knows, but I hope he has some good luck wherever it is. The two chuckled at the same time. They often even sounded nearly identical. Heads up, Tony said, looking behind them. We have company. A tail? Blue Chevy, 2 cars back on the right. Got him. Troy accelerated, then took a sharp left. "Where are you headed?" Tony asked. "The hangar. You know the one." "Right. Built-in cold storage. Slow down. You don't want to lose them." Troy slowed the sedan. He knew they could easily outrun their pursuers, but whoever had drawn them into a game of crazy eights, whoever that man was, knew way too much about them, which meant he might know other things as well. They needed to find out what. Tony settled back into the passenger seat and closed his eyes. It took them 20 minutes to make the trip, and when they turned into the private airstrip area, he watched, concerned that the other car wouldn't follow. But they did, right behind them. Whoever it was had given up stealth long ago. They didn't care if the brothers knew they were being followed. Troy stopped at the gate, and a guard came out to identify them. He waved and started to just open the gate. "Wait," Troy said. "Let the car behind us through." "Just let him through?" the guard asked. "That's right. Then call this number." He handed the man a card with no name on it, just a 10 of clubs on one side and the typical 10 digits of a phone number on the other. With it was a $100 bill. "What do I tell them?" "Identify yourself. Let them know there's a cleanup on aisle 10. "Cleanup on aisle 10? "That's it. You got it?" "Will do." Troy pulled through the now open gate, took a right, and headed for Hangar 10. It was the one with a large club on the front door. The blue Chevy followed them through the gate and stayed only inches from their bumper. "You ready?" Troy asked. In answer, his brother pulled open the glove box and removed 2 pistols. "The other stuff still under the seat?" "Yeah. You think we'll need it?" Tony looked back at the car behind them as they pulled up to the hangar and the 2 men inside. "Nope," he said. Bert headed to the front door of the mall. He looked back over his shoulder. He was being tailed. He had spotted the follow coming out of the parking lot and led them here. He had missed the Mustang, but who knew? When this blew over, maybe he could come back for it. Doubtful. At the front entrance, there was a directory, and Bert studied it. Macy's, the now nearly bankrupt Penny's, and what had once been a Sears store anchored the place. He didn't need to worry about money. The question was, where was he least likely to go? Macy's sounded more upscale to him, although he wasn't sure if he'd ever been in one. J.C. Penney was where his mother had shopped what seemed like decades before. At a catalog once upon a time, right? Eeny, meeny, miny, fuck it. Penny's it was. He walked quickly that way, not hurrying or jogging, but not taking his time either. His tail was there. He felt them, even if he didn't see them. He walked by a trash can and dropped his hat inside. No use making it easy for them, but he would miss that hat. It had set him back a couple $100 and become his trademark. Bert wasn't armed, not with a weapon anyway, but he didn't think he needed to be. He was about to engage in a battle of wits with a couple of unarmed opponents. The first man through the door met Tony's kick first, causing him to trip. Troy caught him on the way down with a quick punch to the chin, following that with a rapid kick to the temple. 1 down. The second man was more cautious. He spun away from the kick, jabbed at Troy and missed, and then spun, bringing his pistol up to fire. Tony ducked underneath his reach just as the weapon went off, and then the man leapt back. Instead of trying to spin with a long reach, he tucked the pistol close to his body and turned to fire again. If Tony had been alone, the man would have gotten him. As he spun and prepared to take a bullet in the shoulder, he heard a crack, and the man fell, his pistol clattering to the concrete floor. His knee was bent sideways in an unnatural way. The man tried to grab it, but every movement clearly caused him agony. "Hi there," Troy said. "Welcome. How can we help you today?" Tony cackled. His brother had always been the funny one. The unconscious man on the floor stirred. "Let's get him hooked up," Troy said. Tony walked across the hangar and grabbed 2 coils of rope from a bench. In the center of the hangar sat a luxurious private jet, once the property of an oil family in Saudi, then a televangelist, and when he was threatened with the revelation of a few of his more egregious sins, it had been given to the brothers. They had sold it to their boss. Who needed a plane anyway? The hangar did make a nice private spot to talk to people who they wanted to talk to, but who weren't necessarily amicable to conversation. And Tony had his pilot's license, so there were some other pluses. In short order, the reawakening man was strung up, nearly hanging by his wrist from the propeller of the left engine. T&T were not without heart. His injured companion was allowed a chair, which simply meant the rope tied to the second propeller blade was a little bit longer. "So, this is how this is going to work," Troy announced. "We're going to ask some questions. You're going to answer." "If we don't?" the man with the shattered knee asked. "Well, besides that," Troy pointed to his leg, "my brother will get up in the cockpit, and if you don't give me the answers I want, he'll simply start the engines." The man looked up, and his groggy companion did the same. "You gentlemen get the idea. Now, who's going to tell me who your boss is, and why you were sent after us?" The groggy man raised his hand. "Yes?" "Fuck you," he said. "That's too bad. Tony?" His brother ascended the steps into the cockpit. Both men desperately hoped the coughing of the second engine would convince these jokers they meant business. After the last man through the propeller incident, the hangar had been a bitch to clean up. Bert entered the dressing room with a pile of clothes. He really didn't care if they fit. He just needed a moment to think. His tail was doing little to hide their presence, but there were things he could do. Call an Uber, exit the other side of the mall, leave them without a car to follow him, and get lost in the crowd on the strip. Then he'd head for his friend's business. Simeon was a Romanian who, with his brothers, owned a limo service, among other things. He was also a great source of information and could help Bert with a plan to get out of town, at least for now. He dressed in a pair of jeans, a new Las Vegas Raiders jersey, and a blue baseball cap. He'd wanted a red one, but figured that might give him away. He kept his shoes, but left the suit in the dressing room, picked up another batch of clothes in the same sizes, 2 more pair of jeans, 3 shirts, and another hat. He grabbed a pair of Nikes, too, and the clerk rang them up along with the pile of tags he handed her, and put everything he wasn't wearing in a huge bag. He could see one of his pursuers staring right at him, a little puzzled. Bert used an app on his phone to order an Uber and then strode from the store into the morning sun. The car arrived a moment later, and he climbed in. He saw the surprised faces of the men tailing him. They clearly hadn't expected him to ditch the Mustang. They'd probably stake it out, but he didn't care. He wouldn't be back for it, not personally anyway. They'd have to give up at some point. Maybe he could trade it to Simeon for something else. His friend had been eyeing that car for a long time. Thanks for listening to the Solitaire series, episode 27, The 10 of Clubs. Next up, episode 28, The Jack of Diamonds.